Hi, welcome to my evaluation of the case study in Module 14. What do we know? We know that this school is in a large city that has a lot of money. The students are very privileged. They have all the newest and greatest things. Miss Tate is unmarried and a beginning teacher who has an undergrad, a master's, and 1 year of post-grad experience. She has a very rigorous class where the students experience a lot of stress due to the work. Miss Tate received an email with a link, and on that link was a Facebook page where she was bashed and threatened. What do we need to know? Who is all a part of this page? Are there any followers? What is the link to the page, and when was the page created? The tech department needs to use resources to find who is linked to the email on the page, and what were the suggestive comments about her personal behavior? There are several problems with this. There is a possible threat by a student, malice, slander, possibly, due to what was said on the website. My plan of action, I would first call the superintendent and the school officer to make sure that they are aware of what is going on. Then I would make sure that the technology staff could find out more information about the site. Who made it? What all was said? When did this happen? Where? What computer did it come from? And why? Call in witnesses or possible suspects to answer the questions about the page to get further information. Determine if there were any laws broken, and if so, call the police. If they find the creator, call parents into the school and also bring in the student. Finally, bring in the students, the parents, the police, and all administrators in the school to a meeting. If it is one person that was responsible for the website, bring them in. If it was more than one, obviously we would have them in separate meetings. We don't want to have them all in one area. After calling in the students and their parents, the student will be disciplined by the policy in the school handbook. Strategies. The Virginia model for threat assessment is a 5-step approach, and I think it has some really interesting and great steps to make sure that we go about this correctly. So step 1 is evaluate the threat. Is this threat credible? Is it something that will happen? Interview the person who made the threat or other witnesses, and consider why the threat was made and the student's intentions. Step 2, attempt to resolve the threat as transient. Does the student retract the threat or offer an explanation or apology that indicates no further intent to harm anyone? If they do, we obviously still discipline them, but they've retracted and they're obviously apologetic for their actions. Step 3, respond to the threat. If there is a substantive threat, we got to take precautions to protect the potential victim. So we would be trying to tell Miss Tate to go stay with her mother like she did and make sure that she's somewhere where she is safe. Warn those intended victims, which Miss Tate already knew because she got the link sent to her, and look for ways to resolve the conflict. Also discipline the student when appropriate. Step 4, conduct a safety evaluation for a very serious substantive threat. So in addition to the previous page, we would screen the student for mental health services and counseling, law enforcement investigation for evidence of planning and preparation criminal activity, and then we would develop a safety plan that reduces risk and addresses students' needs. Plan should be including of the student's IEP if they have one, or if they're receiving any services, and further assessment if possible disability. And step 5 would implement and monitor the safety plan. Document the plan, maintain contact with the student, and monitor whether the plan is working and revise as needed. So those are all great steps that could give you kind of a checklist to go by when you find yourself in this situation. So what is best for students? Well, if needed, after finding more evidence, if we got the police involved, that student would be charged, and obviously he would be expelled or suspended for a long period of time. From the case study, it is obvious that the student is causing problems in the classroom, and he should have repercussions to his actions. So If it isn't a credible threat and the police are not involved, we obviously have to discipline him in a way that will be good for all students in the school. And if we come to the conclusion that it was just a joke and Miss Tate did not press charges, I would suspend him for a period of time or expel, depending on the severity. And just so our school can promote success and personal well being of every student. That's the biggest goal. When I first read the case study, I was thinking of how unhappy I was with the way the administrator responded to Miss Tate. I think he could have responded more worried about it. And now, obviously, reading it is different than actually being there in the conversation, but I felt as if he was kind of flippant, like, "Oh, I bet it's just a joke." But it sometimes is just how somebody deciphers the text. He could have been more worried than he was. This is a serious matter, and I think it should be considered as a credible threat from the beginning. I would have called the police immediately to make sure that they're aware of the email and the page, and then I would obviously try to take caution in making sure that Miss Tate was safe. I value the way that the administrator tried to calm down Miss Tate. I think he said, "Slow down, let me hear, let me listen to what you're trying to say. I can't hear very well." And I like that he was compassionate in that area. There are still several unresolved issues that we need to further investigate. I need to know who made the page and exactly what was on it. If I could have seen the page, I think I could have made a better action plan for this scenario. I would need to know the altercations that Miss Tate could remember that she had in the class with the boy she thinks made it. I would want to know who follows the page and when it was created. And if there are any followers, they should also be disciplined depending on what was said. Obviously, if they just followed, they can't be disciplined for that. But if they were also making comments on the page, then just depending on what they are would determine their discipline. I would also need to know the policies that the school has for threats. All schools have those policies, and it makes it easier to discipline someone if they do something like that because it's right there in the handbook and it tells you exactly what the consequences will be. Integrity. So here are some examples of how Dr. Smith had integrity. He said, "I need to clearly understand what you're talking about. From this statement, I know that Dr. Smith is wanting to take all of the information in and make sure that he makes the best decision." In step 3, Dr. Smith would take initiative to protect the school involved and notify parents. This keeps a united front where everyone can feel safe. Also in step 3, he takes initiative to give consequence to the person who made the threat. He is sticking to his strong moral principles, even if the post and email was just a joke. I believe, even if it was a joke, that that's not okay. And you got to make sure that you discipline that kid because there should be a consequence. Fairness. In the morning, you and I will need to speak with William and some of his friends who may know if he developed this website. From that statement, I know that Dr. Smith is going to bring in a group of students and make sure that he is not picking on one person in particular. He's obviously not going to call in William just by himself. He's going to choose other kids that are around and question them as well. This will make sure that he's fair and that he gets all his questions answered if possible. Also, in step 1, he is considering why the threat was made and the intentions of the threat. And in step 4, he would screen the students for mental health issues. This allows for success of all students because it allows for a safe environment and allows for the student to get help if they need it. Ethically, Dr. Smith says, "I'm going to print hard copies of the email and Facebook page." Right then and there, he is going to make sure that he has all the documents to show and the exact words from the page. He's obviously not going to embellish or downplay the situation, and he will be honest about what was posted. She is intent on establishing a structured classroom focused on academics. The rigor of the subjects she is assigned to teach, combined with her serious approach to instructional delivery, establishes a classroom in which students experience high level of stress. That was a section out of the case study. And although Dr. Smith had talked to Miss Tate about her class and how to help her students with coping with stress, he did not fire her because her class was too hard. He stuck to his morals and kept a teacher who taught new things to students that occasionally caused stress. I think it's really important that teachers feel as if the administration has their back in the right situation. And I think that he really did show that he was there for her during this case study. When Dr. Smith called in students, he gave them their chance to tell their side of the story and come clean about the incident. This is the individual right of the student to tell their motive and explain why they did something like that. So he obviously knows that there's two sides to every story, and he's giving those students a chance to tell why they did what they did, and then from there he can make a decision on how he will discipline them.